They called him the Diesel.
Crank up that diesel.
He leaned across the table and he goes, "You need to get me back there. I'll make you famous."
And to Riggins, good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20. He's gone. He's gone.
It's Riggo The Diesel.
Hello and welcome to Riggo The Diesel. I am Riggo The Diesel, John Riggins. Glad to have you along. And I think this is episode, Devontae, correct me if I'm wrong, 25. Ooh, I was two behind. I was going to say 23.
We're almost at the hump part of this 52-week journey.
Yeah, we are. I thought about that just the other day. Anyway, Larry Michaels with me, the voice of the Washington Redskins. And I have to say, Larry, much, much more. That's actually a sliver of your job out here.
Yeah.
And now that I've got to know you a little bit, I've always known it for quite a while, though. Every time I turn around, there's Larry doing something for the team.
Well, you know what? We had a good event the other night for Youth for Tomorrow. You were there at Cecil's table, and what a table that was.
Cecil Pruitt, the strong man for Youth for Tomorrow. One of the three Mafia members.
Yeah. He referenced that Hazel Mafia, and a lot of those guys are no longer with us, but for a great cause. But that was quite a table you were at.
Oh yeah.
It was quite a table you were at.
And I know why you're saying that.
Of course, because you and Lisa Marie were there. They sent out some pictures, by the way, from the event. Not that I looked at those pictures. Not that I looked at them.
I haven't seen any of them.
You weren't many. You weren't many. Either that or I missed yours in the rush to see the people at Cecil's table.
Yeah, well, that would be, I could see that. By the way, I've got the brass pole all shined up for tomorrow. Is yours all ready to go?
No, I guess I got to go out and pick something up on the way home.
Okay, but
I've done very little, John. It's been very busy here at Redskins Park. I've been very little, and there's been actually one of my dogs has had a problem. My blue pit bull had been nursing a back leg injury. Then I took the dog to the vet a few weeks ago. They said, "Well, it could be a torn ligament." He says, "Might have to give it an MRI, and if it's positive, we're going to have to give surgery." I'm thinking,
yes,
dog MRI. Wait a minute. You're probably talking thousands of dollars.
Easily.
Right.
Easily.
And so I took the anti-inflammatory route with the dog. And then on Saturday night, when I got back from that event, she jumped off a chair and she tweaked that leg. And for a couple of days, she couldn't put any weight on that back left leg. Now, I'm thinking, oh, my God, this is, she's going to be lame. I'm not going to pay $5,000 to get her leg fixed. I love the dog.
Yeah.
Love the dog like a family member. And she's the greatest dog. But over the last couple of days, we kind of gave her bed rest. It's hard to give a dog bed rest, but put her in a room with her crate, and we got another dog there that's a little feisty. And
she's in her kennel. She can't get out.
She can get out, walk around a little. But lately, the last 2 days, putting a little weight on it. So I'm hoping that she tweaked it, and that it just maybe take a couple weeks, and then maybe she'll be okay. Well, but that's been kind of
perfect lead-in, Larry.
Okay, it's what, Valentine's Day?
I'm going to take this. We moved the show from Mondays to Tuesday.
Yes.
Because it was always on Tuesday. We decided, well, let's start, now that the season's over, we'll do it on Monday. And so yesterday was Tuesday, obviously, and we didn't do a show. Today's Wednesday. And listen, I have seen the future. I have seen the future. And from that, I mean, I think I saw John Riggins at age 99 for the last 72 hours, 96 hours, something like that.
Oh, how's he look?
He didn't look good. He did not look good at all.
Wow.
I think it started on Monday. Now, I've had, you've heard me, I think, I haven't said anything, when we do the show because I've been able to manage it, but I all of a sudden, probably at the beginning of the year, right after the new year, I developed, it seemed like overnight, pain in both shoulders and both hips. And so I went to see a rheumatologist, and he thought, and I told him I'd been working out, and he thought, well, maybe you've kind of tweaked some stuff, from lifting weights and doing all this stuff, and, just go home, take some leave or whatever. He gave me a kind of a protocol to follow, and I did that. Well, starting on, I guess it would have been Sunday night or Sunday, I noticed that I was okay once I got up and got around, but the stiffness and the soreness and the pain. Well, by Monday, it was almost the point where I couldn't get out of bed. I mean, eventually, you got to go to the bathroom. You have to, and you force yourself, and you do all these things just so you get around. And after a while, it's better. Then, Monday was worse than Tuesday. And that was yesterday morning. I'm going. Unfortunately, I had a doctor's appointment, and that's when I asked you on Monday night if we could move it. because I needed some kind of relief. So I went over there, and I think, in other words, we don't want to get in because I said, well, what if it isn't it's called polymyalgia rheumatica, which is basically soreness in different muscle areas, which is, with me, it's the shoulders and the hips, which is customary. And I kind of looked that up. Interestingly enough, with the internet nowadays, you can almost self-diagnose, which I saw a cartoon in his office that said, hey, doc, I already know what I got. I've already diagnosed myself. I'm here for a second opinion. And that's kind of what I was there for yesterday, because in my mind I'm thinking that's the only thing, what I've read so far. But it is a situation. So I got a shot of cortisone yesterday, but it's not the kind I think, it's actually it's not the, it's a steroid, but it's not like what you take for, a PED or anything like that.
Right.
But so I'm telling you, miraculously this morning I woke up and it was like the fog had lifted.
Wow.
I'm pretty
just
much
with that one treatment.
Well, I've got a protocol now that's not good, because I got to keep taking this for probably quite a while. We're talking about maybe 24 months.
Does that eliminate the workouts, or do you got to?
No. I mean, I'm going to keep on with that. It's in other words, if it didn't affect me adversely, I'll keep on doing it.
Sure.
But yeah, it's one of those things that I ask how you get it. He says, well, if you and I knew the answer to that, we could go to Stockholm and pick up our Nobel Prize.
You can't look that up online. How you got it?
Well, I did, because I basically what I put in there, a shoulder and hip pain simultaneous or whatever, and then and this is the only thing that it showed. And the more I read about it, I said, I think that's a possibility of what I might have. And so, like I said, I went yesterday, and the doctor confirmed my diagnosis. So,
wow, you look
all
great,
all this without going to med school.
Yeah, you told me on Saturday night at that event. I asked you, how's it going? You said, my shoulder's hurting me. You were feeling that on the weekend.
Yeah.
You were feeling the way. So it got progressively worse, and you just went in and took care of it, and you're good.
Yeah.
Well,
I was heading in that direction anyway.
That's
so
pretty good deal.
Sure.
Pretty good deal. You feel better? That's good.
Well, I'm telling you, it's surprising how well I feel. But, I suppose the dosage and whatever it is that I'm taking it's basically, for people that as we grow older, you get arthritic and you get rheumatic and you do all these other things. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm sealing up some stuff that I had from beforehand. In other words, I'm catching a little bit of everything.
Right.
So I don't know how long it's going to last.
catching up to you a little bit.
Hey, Riggo, let me ask you a question. Now that we're talking about this, and I used to marvel when you'd be running and guys would hit you, they would seem to bounce off. Did that hurt?
No. I don't think so. I think, first of all, you got to remember a lot of adrenaline, right? At least when I played, in my people have to complete, and I have to say this, I think the wrong image of me as a running back. He was a tough guy, right?
You were a track guy too, though, so you were a little bit of both.
Well, but my point is that it was really more of creating the illusion, because I didn't run. You remember Jimmy Taylor? I mean, some people wouldn't. The late Jimmy Taylor, he passed away within the last 6-7 months, I think.
Hard-nosed
Played
guy,
for Green Bay.
Packer.
He was Vince Lombardi's dream running back, really, because he was so hard-nosed. It's rumored that he would look up guys. In other words, he had the ball, and he'd run, instead of running away from a tackler, he'd run toward the tackler.
Right.
Which I never wanted to argue with Jimmy, because I've met him a couple of times, and I'm going, if that was true, that would seem antithetical to the whole point of trying to advance the football, which I tried to be as scientific about as I could. Plus, it takes a toll on you. So I think I took a lot of what people would say, shots that looked like, that I was being punished, but at the same time, it didn't turn out that way, because I ran with fear. I didn't run with the kind of confidence Jim Taylor had.
I mean, you also had the speed, so I think people couldn't come at you the way they'd come at Jim Taylor. I mean, they had. I mean, but it just seemed that you would shed tacklers effortltly.
Yeah, I think it had a little bit to do with it. I had just enough of a curve where I could slip to the side. I mean, I've always felt this, and we've talked, well, maybe we haven't talked. I've told other people, though, because in the beginning, when I came into the league, the football was a different critter, offensively speaking, particularly for the running backs. As you know, nowadays, very seldom do you see a fullback in the game. Well, in the old days, you had two running backs, halfback and a fullback, and there was very little I formation, a lot of split back stuff, and a lot of what we call, at least when I was at the Jets, brown formation. And that was where the fullback would line up directly behind the quarterback, and the halfback pretty much stayed always in his same position, and then eventually the I formation, and so there were things run off of that. But the fullback, most of the place, was a lead the lead blocker for the halfback.
Right.
And that meant that you had to go dig out a middle linebacker, kick out an outside linebacker, try to hook a defensive end, or cut a defensive tackle. I mean, the very thing that any running back, I'm thinking, that likes to carry the football is anathema. Who wants to do that?
What?
Anathema. You know, like,
I don't know what that means.
that means it's like one of the last things you ever want to do. It's bad. Stay away from it. It's something we don't want. It's kind of like having a pernicious disease. You know, it's not going to end well for you if you keep doing this. So I had to do that when I got down here for the first 7 years. Actually 8-9 years until Joe Gibbs showed up, and eventually it morphed into the one back offense, and where I was that one back. So, I mean, that to me is where you take a beating. I think I can't imagine a running back worth his salt that would rather be at the point of attack blocking than carrying the football, because the thing about blocking is you have to literally, and I hate to say it, but when you say man up, if you're taking out a middle linebacker, that's backbone to backbone. In other words, it's a head-on collision. You cannot move him or I should say neutralize him if you're just going to try and get a piece of him.
Right.
And running the ball, you can get a piece of somebody and keep going.
Got to be a head-on collision to make it work.
It's a head-on collision, exactly. The very thing that the NFL is trying to eliminate, really, with eliminating kickoffs and all that.
Yeah. What was that word again? Anathema?
Anathema, I believe.
How do you spell that, Devontae?
I don't know how to spell half the words I use. I'm lucky I can spell my name at this point, Larry.
It's a pretty
Go
easy
ahead.
one.
You got something for us.
Hey, extreme opportunity to win millions of dollars is ahead. The Extreme Million Scratcher could get you $10 million without you having to do anything extreme at all. The game has a $10 million top prize, a $1 million second prize, over $256 million in total prizes of the entire game. All you have to do is head to your local lottery retailer. Game will make even the dullest winter day sparkle. You have 30 chances to win per ticket. There are multipliers in the game. You have second chance drawings. Don't spend the day staring out your window or leafing through a magazine you've read a million times. You should check out Extreme Millions. That's an extremely easy question to answer.
I might have to do that only because I have read this one magazine a million times. I'm waiting for the next issue. All right, I got one here. Riggo here. Most people give little or no thought about their home's plumbing until there's an emergency. Wouldn't it be great to know that all your plumbing is in good condition, that you're not wasting water or your hard-earned cash? The team at O'Connor Plumbing can give your home a complete plumbing checkup of all your visible piping, drains, faucets, traps, water heater, sump pump, toilets. They'll check it all and at no cost for the next 30 days. Call O'Connor Plumbing now to set up your no-cost 44-point home plumbing inspection at 1-833-RIGGO-44.
And a little tip, if you need a mortgage, go to the pros at Mcclain Mortgage. Buying a home can be stressful and filled with hassles. The experts at Mcclain Mortgage understand what an important financial investment your home is, and will seamlessly guide you through the process to successful home ownership. Smooth, amazing, easy, professional, and first-rate. Just some of the reviews from their tens of thousands of homeowners. Trust Mcclain Mortgage. Check them out, McClainMortgage.com. Lending as it should be.
Ladies and gentlemen, stand back and watch the Phoenix rise from the ashes.
Stand back. It's Riggo the Diesel.
Well, that's exactly what happened this morning. After I got my shot of cortisone yesterday,
Yeah, you rose from the ashes.
It was slow going for a little bit. I felt like last night, say around 6, 7 o'clock, I felt as though I was getting better, but this morning, the Phoenix rose from the ashes. I got out of bed. It didn't take me 20 minutes to get to the toilet. I mean, I'm going, oh, hey, I'm healed. So anyway, that was good.
Healing is a good thing. No one had to put their hands on you either.
No, and I didn't. I thought about going to a chiropractor. I said, I don't think a chiropractor is going to do me any good, and I would have been correct. Since we last met, Larry,
Yes,
there
sir.
have been some changes on that's happened out here at the park regarding the coaching situation.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Rattay's brought in as the quarterback coach. Wes Phillips no longer the tight ends coach. Brian Angelico is the tight ends coach. Rob Bryan, we knew from a couple of weeks ago, had Rob Bryan yesterday on Redskins Nation. And you look at these guys, and again, you look at their personalities, and Rob Bryan's personality fits perfectly with Minuski and Tom Sula. I mean, this guy, he's got a loud personality. Mm-hmm. And the offensive guys, I mean, Tim Rattay, You thought maybe an accountant had walked in the room when he came in. Former pro quarterback.
Very businesslike.
Very businesslike. So, some of the challenges for Jay Gruden, obviously, this year are to compile a healthy roster. Obviously, the injuries 2 years in a row been devastating. Figure out your quarterback situation, how that's going to play out, and obviously get your coaches on board as quickly as possible because this is a fast-moving train.
It is. It's funny you should say that because I thought the same thing. I'm thinking, well, the Super Bowl was played a week ago, and here we are with the off season, but it also, in a weird sort of way, I can almost remember back to September when the first game started and how quickly that went. And it's the same thing. This off season will go just as quickly. There's a little bit of a story I could tell you because Rob Ryan is the twin brother of Rex Ryan, and they are the sons of Buddy Ryan. And when I first went to the Jets in 1971, Buddy Ryan was the defensive line coach with the New York Jets.
Okay.
And interesting enough, we practiced out at Hofstra, and they had these high-rise dorms out there. Not that that's important, but to set the scene up a little bit. And I remember walking out of there, and here are these two tall, skinny as rail kids. And I was trying to do the math on this because Buddy had been divorced and their mom had moved to Toronto, I think, because he originally had been coaching in Buffalo. Buddy had, and then he came over to the Jets. So Toronto is just on the other side of Niagara Falls, I guess, to get to Toronto, Canada. But anyway, they'd moved back down to live with Buddy. And I'm thinking they were 9, 10, maybe 11 years old. And they were just as humble, mild-mannered, skinny kids, him and his brother.
Yeah.
And, you look at them today, and there's no way I can put them into the same thought process as the kids that I met because they're obviously not skinny. Well, Rex maybe, but he's had, and they both tried the what is it, where they get your stomach stapled or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
And Rex, it worked for him. It didn't work for Rob. But they're not mild-mannered either.
They're not mild-mannered.
They're guys that they'll tell you what they think. But their dad was the same way. Buddy was exactly the same way.
Was he really?
Oh, Buddy was. I don't want to say he was a maniac at all because he had a focus and it was one thing. It was to get the job done and to win. And I remember, years ago, he erupted on the side. I didn't necessarily notice it, but he just literally lit into somebody about something that had gone wrong out on the field. And then somebody asked Buddy afterwards about, all the things he'd said and almost kind of a sensitivity training type deal. And Buddy's going, oh, hell, that's whiskey talk. Nobody, that's just momentary. It's there and then it's gone. So Buddy had a completely different spin on things than a lot of people.
So you're saying these guys are chips off the old block?
I think a little bit. Yeah, I think a little bit.
I like
so
Rob.
I think in that regard it'll be good. And, bringing Rob in here because I don't know. I read and I can't tell for sure, but you would look at today's players, wouldn't you, Larry? And you kind of go, and I've heard this from Coach Gibbs when he came, Redux, when he came for the second time, and working with today's guys aren't the same as the older guys back in the 70s, 80s, and I mean you can go back further than that. There's a different mindset across the board, and. I think and I'm not going to say it's a criticism because the jury's still out because I think you brought up one of the biggest challenges that Coach Gruden faces for 2019, and I don't know how he wades that river, but injuries. This to me is inexplicable. I don't understand how you can have 2 years in a row an offensive line decimated as they were. There were other positions, but if you're going to have any kind of hope of having a semi-juggernaut offense, you got to have the guys up front. And when you're shuffling guys back and forth, in and out, and then, of course, then you get the quarterback stuff, just complain. To me, that's pure freak stuff there. But to have, I don't know, can you solve that? I mean, that's clearly a major delve into, doing some research.
Research and development.
Yeah, R&D, doing some.
I think they're doing that right now, John. I mean, last year they put in the recovery center, which was a pretty expensive operation that's helping players get back on the field to recover quicker. But you can't recover quicker from, a broken leg or whatever. I mean, you got different injuries.
Yeah,
that happen.
exactly.
And I don't know if recovery
torn
center,
pectoral muscles,
any
and all
type
this
of
stuff.
tear, muscle tear, broken bone. I mean, the recovery center will help guys on a week-to-week basis heal. But the injuries were severe, so I think they're going to go over every aspect of the offseason program, every aspect of their strength and conditioning, every aspect of their medicine and figure out the best changes to make. I don't think they stand pat. We're not going to know about these changes. These are medical things that we're not going to hear about, I would think. But I think you have to after 2 years in a row. I mean, 2 years in a row, that's a mighty big coincidence. Yeah. And again, if you look at the injuries, I don't think you can tie them all. There's no common denominator there other than the team got decimated 2 years in a row, right. And you can't afford to have that happen. I got a question to ask you. Can a quarterback that's listed at 5'9" and 7/8" succeed in the NFL? Because Cuyler Murray chose the NFL over baseball for now. And I saw where Oklahoma, his own school, listed him officially at 5'9" and 7/8". Now, he'll go to the combine, and maybe he'll grow between now and then, which is pretty quick. I don't think he's going to grow too much. We always look for those numbers. Are those numbers meaningless, meaningful? What does Riggo think?
Well, I'll tell you what. I think the last quarterback in the NFL that approximated those dimensions is Doug Flutie.
Yes.
I think I read that.
Yeah.
And he had a mixed bag of success in the NFL. He was a terrific, obviously, college quarterback, the same as Cuyler Murray is. And I don't know, I've thought about this, but the answer could get a little bit, we could run on for a while on this. Do you want to take a break or do you want to keep going?
I think we'll take a break and come back.
Okay,
right after the break, we'll pick it up. Helping people improve their lives. So what should drive business? That's the belief at Koch Industries, which employs more than 65,000 people across America. The great team at Koch works together to meet the world's changing needs. Transportation, medical care, water filtration, household goods, energy-efficient building products, and everyday technologies, all while consuming fewer resources. See the innovations firsthand at kochindustries.com. And if you're looking for a family-owned and operated heating and AC contractor, Bowman's Heating and AC is the company you're looking for. For over 30 years, Bowman's has serviced Northern Virginia, taking care of any heating and cooling situation that comes their way. Bowman's friendly and highly trained technicians specialize in air conditioner and furnace repair, as well as service and maintenance to indoor air quality equipment and any other HVAC equipment you may have. Call Bowman's Heating and Air Conditioning. Give them a call, 703-471-0452 to schedule an appointment today. Bowman's Heating and AC, 703-471-0452.
Who's bored? Who's broke? And who's back?
I wanted to always see the redwoods. I wanted to see the Rocky Mountains. I wanted to see the Painted Desert, the Petrified Forest, the Grand Canyon. That was like the land that I always wanted to go to.
John Riggins.
By the way, everybody be glad to know I've seen all those things.
Good for you,
Took me a while to do it, though. Saw some of it on a motorcycle years ago.
Really?
Back when I had the Mohawk, yeah. I took a little trip out west, went all the way to Los Angeles, stayed there for a while, then came back.
You went cross-country on a motorcycle?
Yes, I did, Larry.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're
Slept out,
man.
camped out along the road. I had my Iron Horse, I think is what we called it.
The Iron Horse.
Iron Pony, something like that. Yeah. Anyway, back to, first of all, I wanted to finish the one thought I had about Coach Gruden and bringing Rob Ryan on the staff. Then I think he'll bring a certain, but then again, I think of Greg Minuski, and I'm thinking, and Tom Sewell, I'm thinking these are the very guys. Yeah. They're kind of hard-nosed guys.
Yeah.
That I'm thinking that they get that across the defense. But I was going to say, if there's a critique of Coach Gruden that maybe, and it's the two different philosophies as we were talking about, of there's the new school and the old school. And I got to believe Belichick's kind of old school, don't you? It's this way.
So. Sure.
It's this way, or you know where the door is, right?
He's the oldest of old school.
And then there's other guys. I don't know whether Sean McVay's one of those guys that basically kind of fits in with the new wave of coaching, kind of go along to get along and make your point.
I don't know. I mean, I think, you know what? I might say not to the degree that you might be implying. Yeah, he's young.
And I guess that's what would make me think that maybe he is of that nature.
I think he's
but how would you describe then? How would you describe Coach Gruden?
Coach Gruden is certainly
laid back. Right?
Laid back. Coach Gruden is laid back, and again, I've talked to guys of your era. You had some guys, a guy by the name of Bugle, who was
not laid back.
He was not laid back. He countered on offense what Joe Gibbs was about, and Joe Gibbs wouldn't curse, and he'd say "gosh darn" and "buns." You called him, right? Because he wouldn't say another word for the posterior. So
correct. For the buttocks.
Buttocks. So, but Bugle sure had the vocabulary.
He did not mince any words.
So that's what I'm talking about. On that offensive side, just in that locker room, to have a guy like Rob Bryant, because he'll needle everybody. I think he'll needle the offense as well. But you're right. I mean, again, Jay Gruden is not that. He's not an in-your-face screaming.
He's somewhat known as a mild-mannered kind of a coach.
Just his personality. I think he's going to be him.
I like his style. He's the kind of coach I could have appreciated. Because you always hear me say, Larry, go out and do your job. I was always because it takes on, that's your brand out there constantly. I can't understand guys that talk like they need motivation or whatever.
Right.
I mean, even the guys that were whining about the fans. It's like, good God, you got a job to do out there. Be a professional.
That bothered you, didn't it?
It does, because it tells me that if you need every crutch you can think of. If you're really focused on your brand and what you're all about, I don't mind. Have tunnel vision. Do what I ask you to do. And you know what? If that's not enough, I'll figure that out. But that's my problem if it's not getting the job done. Just do what I ask you to do and don't look sideways. Put the blinders on.
Yeah. I mean, coaching nowadays, you got to be a psychiatrist too, and you need a lot of help from a lot of people because your team is so diverse. I mean, back in the day, guys had to work during the offseason.
Yeah.
They had a whole different – they had families they needed to support. The paycheck wasn't enough to support a family. You had to work during the offseason unless you were one of the top superstars in the league. So those are different responsibilities back then. The responsibilities change now. For these players, responsibility is to stay in shape, stay out of trouble, get ready for the season. You don't have to get a job.
No.
So, it's a different person, man.
Yeah, and what I think about too is with all the constant working out and the premium that's put on that goes back, but I don't think this team is any different than the other 31 teams in the NFL as far as are they overdoing it. And everybody, you hear that because just what you're talking about years ago. I mean, myself personally, and I want to speak for all the other players that play, but I got a feeling, as you're talking about, that everybody had another job in the off season, is that you didn't have time to work out, or you just ignored that because when you went to training camp in July, you were there for 8 weeks. There was 6 games that you played in the exhibition season was 6, and you had 2 weeks to get ready for that, and then the season started. So you looked to training camp to get in shape. Now guys never really get out of shape, and I'm wondering if it's too big of a. But there's, like I said, the other 31 teams do it, and they haven't seemed to have the same amount of injuries as Washington.
Heck of a question, but John, again, you talk to some of the guys from your era, they marvel at the lack of hitting that takes place in these practices. So they're hitting a lot less, they're lifting and training a lot more.
Correct.
They're getting a lot less total rest. They're going to get their rest on a daily basis. You'd get a couple, 3-4 months where. Well, not that. Yeah. It'd be
at least
a substantial amount of time.
For me, back in those days, I didn't play in January, not until the latter part of my career. So I was off in January, to July.
To July. Sonny used to tell me some great stories because Sonny would, he'd enjoy. He enjoys life.
Yes, he does.
He enjoys life. Can you?
And he for sure enjoyed it in the off season.
Can you imagine Sonny during the off season? Just his escapades and what those were like when I don't know if Sonny was right into the media though. I don't know. He was he was in a unique position.
Yeah.
We're not going to get a chance to talk about a couple things here on today's show. We're not going to get a chance to talk about the AAF and the XFL, which I really want to get into that.
I do too. But you know what we ought to do though is finish this about, because I had a distinct, and I wanted to ask you something about Cuyler Murray.
Yes, sir.
And that is, now he has come out within the last 2 weeks and said, in fact, I want to play football because that's my first love and blah, 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 blah. But now, in a way, if you look at this from a business standpoint, and I'm a kind of a cynical guy most of the time, and in this case in particular, I'm being a little cynical here. Would he not be foolish to have not said that with the draft coming up? He's already established with the Oakland Athletics. He's been drafted. He's been given a $4 million some bonus, which I think 9th overall in baseball draft. So he's a first-round pick in baseball.
Yep.
And he's got that, so he knows he's got to give the money back now that he's declared he's going to play football. But there's nothing in writing. I mean, there's nothing that compels him to follow through on what he's saying. If I were him, I think I would be foolish not to say that football is my first love and that's what I'm going to do. And because if you don't, you'll still get drafted. Somebody will take a flyer on you, but you're not going to be at the top of the food chain. So now you say you're going to, and now you weigh that against what you think your baseball deal is. I would think from a business standpoint, that's what's really going on here, that he is going to try and play it to milk it to see where the most money is for him. I don't really, on the one hand, when I first heard this, I thought this is kind of foolish. I mean, if you have a chance to play Major League Baseball, I would think that I would, well, except for the fact I was scared of a curveball and a slider, and the changeup and a fastball. The changeup was my pitch, and they don't throw that often. But I would think that somebody would gravitate towards baseball, longer playing career. The money is guaranteed, but then there's where the rub is, because there's a lot of guys that end up trying to play baseball, only so many spots. There's Class A, Double A, Triple A, and you can spend a career doing that until you go, I'm never going to make it to the majors, and you won't make the same kind of money but there's always an if that either or. So, in other words, there's no guarantee in either one of them, but I would think that he's going to wait and see where he gets drafted. And if he gets drafted late in the first round, and his guaranteed for a rookie contract is, somewhat, or maybe $6 million, we'll say, he might all of a sudden opt to go back and play baseball. Does that make sense to you?
You're saying he's keeping his options open.
Yeah, that's what I think is going on.
Absolutely.
But is that the way because I don't get the impression that the press has necessarily portrayed it that way. Certainly somebody else has thought of it.
They've just said he's not playing baseball, he's playing football, but your point is real. I do think that he'll get drafted early in the first round. There's not that many quarterbacks. I do think the team that drafts him is really risking it at his size.
Do too.
In this day and age, again, I mean, you and I remember Fran Tarkington. When was the last time you saw one of him out there?
Was he under 5 feet or 6 feet?
Oh, yeah.
Not 5 feet.
Never. You've never seen a guy like Fran Tarkington. I don't care what.
Right. He was an anomaly.
He was ridiculous.
But he did most of his, when you think about Fran Tarkington, most of his plays came when he scrambled and got out of the pocket.
I mean, he had remarkable escapability.
He could finally see.
All right. So, you know what? We've got an announcement on a guest coming up for next week's show. We're going to do that after this final timeout.
Your heart works hard, and sometimes its parts need repair. That's what we do at Innova's Structural Heart Program in Fairfax. With outcomes that exceed the national average, we're a leader in both minimally invasive repair techniques and surgery to address heart valve disease. Give your heart the benefit of care from Innova Heart and Vascular Institute. Find an Innova physician by visiting innovaheart.org/valve. Innova. Join the future of health.
Who sat here? Your student? A peer? Your best friend? What did they grow up to be? A scientist? A nurse? An entertainer? Did you know it back then that they were made to stand out? Celebrate the extraordinary people made in Virginia Public Schools. Nominate a public school graduate for the Virginia Lottery's Made in Virginia Award. Details at madeinvirginia.com. Deadline October 12th. The Virginia Lottery, $9 billion to education, 30 years of fun.
Gearing up for game day? Your local Safeway has everything you need for the perfect tailgating or home gating party. Pick up all your favorites like wings, chips and dips, brats, burgers, beverages, and pizza. Stop by the deli to pick up fresh fried chicken or the produce department for a variety of party trays. Head on over to your local Safeway and pick up everyone's favorites. Safeway, the official supermarket of the Washington Redskins. Sports fans of all kinds have a new place to connect. Asbury Methodist Village. You have a competitive spirit or just like to be active, Asbury has everything you need. Tennis and bocce ball courts, a fitness center and pool. Plus, whatever team you root for, you'll find kindred spirits at Asbury. Come for a tour and check out everything Montgomery County's leading senior living community has to offer. Visit AsburyMethodistVillage.org to schedule a tour and find more information on our services and top-notch reputation. That's AsburyMethodistVillage.org. Asbury is an equal opportunity housing provider.
All right, Larry, we will next week. We do have to talk about the AAF, American Alliance of Football.
Carry that over.
And plus what it's going to do to the whole landscape and the NFL, and I wanted to get your opinions on that. So we got that to look forward to, and we're going to bring Brandon Sheriff on the show.
Okay.
And we'll talk a little football, but something tells me that we're going to be talking more about hunting.
Yes.
Seeing how he's a Midwest guy like myself. He grew up in Iowa, I believe.
Yeah.
And Iowa's always known for some great pheasant hunting, but they got some pretty good-sized deer out there, too, so I'm sure that's going to be an interesting show. Looking forward to it.
He showed me a picture of his dogs. I said, what kind of dogs are there? He says, those are bird dogs. I said, no, what breed? He goes, they're bird dogs.
He couldn't tell you what kind?
He couldn't tell me what kind.
Oh, Brandon, he's going to have to take him to school next week.
We're going to have to ask him. He might have just been pulling my leg. And
I think he was.
He loves him some deer fajitas.
And we'll leave it go at that for now.
That's it.
We'll get him let him explain the whole deal next week. Thanks for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you next Tuesday.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.